get a victory in a decision like this, I mean, this was not an attempt to Roe versus Wade. No. But the reason we were so involved in this case is because we filed a legal amicus brief. We joined a legal amicus brief at the U.S. Supreme Court decision on this case. We also know it's important because Texas had a similar law that had to go up in court. Actually, I was in the U.S. Supreme Court that day. That case was argued several years ago. And there was a hope that now you've got some new justices on the court that would rule differently and see that it's constitutional, just like any other medical procedures or medical facilities, to have common sense safety measures, which in this case would have meant that abortion clinics, if a doctor's performing abortion, would have had to have admitted privileges within 30 miles in case something goes wrong. And unfortunately, tragically, things do go wrong in abortion clinics. Women die there sometimes. And if it gets that bad to where there's an emergency, if the doctor has admitting privileges at a local hospital, they can quickly get in, the doctor can, and it's less likely that there's going to be something tragic further happen to that woman. But Chief Justice, again, John Roberts, joined with 5 liberals. Now, it is important to note, as I was mentioning, we got a couple of new judges on the court. Gorsuch and also Kavanaugh were in the minority, so to speak, or the dissent, if you will. The 4 arguably upheld this law. But it relates to Texas because this issue was litigated, a similar issue at the Supreme Court. And there was some hope in Texas that if we got a victory here, that we might be able to see us once again try to have these health and safety standards. But Chief Justice Roberts said no. And we got our work cut out for us, but we're not going to stop standing for what we believe in. But it tells us where we are right now on this issue.
Yeah, absolutely. We had hoped that that it would come back and there would be some distinguishing factor between Whole Women's Health, the Texas case, and then this case, but the court said no, and they said that they're basically the same type of laws put into effect, and they had to follow precedent. So we were not excited about that decision, but we do have a lot of work that we're planning going forward.
Well, and it's debatable whether or not that's accurate what they were saying, if you will. There was certainly a lot of dissenting from Justice Thomas. I'll talk about that in just a minute and why that's relevant as we move forward on this issue. But I wanted people to understand, first of all, why are there efforts by states to have health and safety measures like just having the doctor having admitted privileges? Because a lot of times these doctors that perform abortions, they're shady. Right. Okay, they're not at a level to where they have admitting privileges at a hospital. That's how desperate a lot of abortion industries and Planned Parenthood clinics have become, in our opinion. In addition to that, there have been tragic situations. In the Texas case, we filed an amicus brief at the U.S. Supreme Court highlighting, it was hard to highlight, but we did highlight Dr. at the time, Kermit Gosnell, and some of the awful things he did in his clinic in Pennsylvania. That clinic is now shut down. Kermit Gosnell is now in prison. Why? Because women died as a result. And not only that, some of the awful things that were found in his clinic, I mean, it was crazy to think of some of that stuff that was happening. And so states respond. We've got to at least have some type of common sense health and safety standards for women that are in these type of situations. And that's what was revealed here today. The Supreme Court and the abortion industry, they care more about killing babies than they do about the health and safety of women.
Yeah, and it's, it is common sense, and that's something that we tried to drill home, and I think that a lot of parties have tried to drill home. If you have someone doing surgery, being admitted at a surgical ambulatory center is crucial to make sure that not only do they have the right credentials, but they also aren't doing things shady but this makes it very.
I want to make sure we highlight this so people understand this. The abortion industry, they filed this lawsuit. They pushed this issue. They don't want to have to follow health and safety measures. And that was one of the kind of in the weeds legal issue in this case. Is it right for the abortion industry to be the designed to protect? Their view, if you will, was being represented by the people that don't want to protect them. They don't want to follow.
Right. Like this fox guarding the hen house.
That's exactly right. That was on a call we were on Friday, and it fits here. But it is critical to understand what's going on and what's at stake. And look, it is notable that Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, if you're into what's going on at a larger scheme, on these type of issues. They did rule in as part of the 4, so you could argue if there was one more vote, if there was a different justice on the court, that this might have gone 5-4, but it shouldn't even be this close.
Right. No, it shouldn't.
This should have been an easy case. And let me mention here too. Look, a lot of activity on social media. Ryan Anderson put up a part of the dissenting opinion. Even if the plaintiffs, this is about some of the legal issues, had standing, the court would still lack the authority to enjoin Louisiana's law, which represents constitutionally valid exercise of the state's traditional police powers. The plurality and the Chief Justice, their judgment is dictated by our precedents. And so he goes on to say, but today's decision is wrong for a far simpler reason. The Constitution does not constrain the state's ability to regulate or even prohibit abortion. This court created the right to an abortion based on an amorphous, unwritten right to privacy, which is grounded in the legal fiction of substantive due process. He goes on to say, as the origins of this jurisprudence readily demonstrate, the putative right to abortion is a creation that Thomas is ready to undo Roe versus Wade. Now, that wasn't the case here. It wasn't that that's what this law was about. But he makes it very clear how the majority, or the plurality, if you will, in this case, the majority are out of step. And I've got a statement here. Family Research Council President Tony Perkins, we work very closely with that group, goes on to say, despite the left's hysterical fear-mongering, this case was not about the Supreme Court's self-created right to an abortion. This case was about whether the state has the right to ensure that abortionists who take women's money also provide for their safety. However, I do look forward to the day when the Supreme Court will correct the gross injustice of Roe v. Wade that has led to the killing of tens of millions of unborn babies. You can go to frc.org and see what they're talking about this issue. But we were waiting. We know there was just a couple of days left for this decision that came out. Huge disappointment, to say the least, and really a lot to be concerned about. But that just means now why we have to stand even stronger for what we believe in. And, look, if you want to support us, we do have a fiscal year deadline coming up tomorrow. Go to txvalues.org, make a donation today. That means your voice will be at the U.S. Supreme Court on the next case to come up, like the Texas Values voice was there on this case. But it also is an ability, and we were communicating with a lot of legislators today at the state level and some at the federal level, saying, hey, message on this. Many have responded to stand up. I mean, that was a part of our quote, right? Enough is enough. The Supreme Court thinks they're the supreme legislature.
Yeah, they do, and it just kind of underscores and underlines the fact that we need to be, getting good people into office, which kind of brings up one of the things we wanted to hit on the election runoffs.
That's right. Well, look, and it's not just if you're frustrated with what the Supreme Court did today, if you're disappointed, if you're broken, if it really concerns you, and it should. All right, do something at the ballot box. When you're looking for the right candidate, find out where they stand on the life issue. Find out what they've done on the life issue and what they're willing to say and what they're willing to do moving forward. We got a great website that we partner with, freevotersguide.com. Early voting starts today. And we had an email, there was an email that went out yesterday with our partner organization, Texas Values Action. There are a lot of counties in the state of Texas that North Texas, the Houston area, San Antonio, Central, El Paso, West. I mean, just about every county you can think of is either close or involved in one of these runoff elections. Early voting starts today, goes for a couple of weeks. I know July 4th coming up. Okay, I'm going to be celebrating our nation's freedom and liberty as well. But man, it's a critical time, and this is on the ballot. Okay, the life issue is on the ballot because it's having pro-life laws that go into effect that create an opportunity to maybe first of all, just to uphold those laws and save lives and protect health and safety, but also make it clear to the Supreme Court, you can't keep, really taking over the role of the legislature. This is where this movement is going.
Yeah, absolutely, and we want to continue pushing forward and trying to keep people informed, as well as pushing back against the liberal left on these types of things. So donating to TexasValues.org is crucial to us being able to do that. So.
Well, and look, you think about the Supreme Court, and very concerning decision today, striking down a Louisiana law that was basically a common sense health and safety standards that would have been placed to make sure that doctors, if something goes wrong, they have admitting privileges at an abortion clinic, that they have admitting privileges in a hospital nearby. If we can't get that done, you have to wonder what we're talking about here and what the Supreme Court thinks is okay. And so we're going to figure out how to deal with that issue moving forward. But that's not the only area where the abortion industry is involved, and they're active trying to strike down laws. So if you're frustrated, there's nothing, and you think, man, what can I do about the Supreme Court decision? Well, we got to see where the dust settles and what we're going to do as it relates to that issue. Communicating with your state legislator, communicating with your member of Congress, your Senate member. But you know what you could do right now? You could get involved in the State Board of Education race. And excuse me, the State Board of Education issues going on right now with health standards, because the abortion industry is way involved right now. As a matter of fact, another member of our team, Mary Elizabeth, is in our office. She's watching all this stuff virtually. I'm on the testimony list. So are you. In the sex education standards, they want the abortion industry more involved.
Yeah, we've been monitoring this all day and even for the past few weeks, but still trying to, they're even trying to take things like mentions of fetal development out of the health teaks, which go into the curriculum that we teach our public school students as well. So
yeah, look, they're always looking for some angle, some way to get involved. I mean, you know, we've had some victories too against a lot of these issues in sex education. In Austin ISD, wasn't necessarily a pro-abortion issue that was coming up, but you imagine they would have taken advantage of it in Mansfield, where we got a sexual orientation policy voted down last week, something we've been very active in. And the Austin ISD issue, as I mentioned, was a part of Senate Bill 22. In large part, that bill says that government entities cannot have contracts with abortion providers. Why does that matter? Because abortion providers want to have any way they can get into the public schools to have those contracts, and if they're not allowed, that makes it more difficult. Now they're trying for the statewide level, and so that goes on all this week. But this is really kind of the first round that's going to go on for several months at the State Board of Education.
Yeah, it'll go on for several months, and then we'll have the legislature rolling up too, and we'll have some other things coming in, you know. And so, like, contacting your legislature, like Jonathan said, is important. We're hoping to bring some of the bills that we brought last session and during the 86 when it came up, the heartbeat bill, some of the SB 22 stuff that we talked about, even some related to transgender athletes. So we are really trying to get our game rolling, trying to get everything moving forward, and we've got a lot coming up, so we really could have used your support and appreciate your support as well.
Well, and speaking of the State Board of Education, I'm curious, people are watching, put in a comment if you know who your State Board of Education member is. There are 10, 15 districts in the state of Texas. I admit, if I was not involved in this type of work, I probably wouldn't know, or I'd have, less likely to have an idea. So, and what I thought about the other day? If you watch our videos on social media and other places, but you're not getting our email, well, you got to get signed up. Go to our website, txvalues.org, or send an email to info@txvalues.org. Don't just be a social media fan. Make sure you're getting those emails too. And you would have gotten an email last week detailing what's going on at the State Board of Education and some of the work we're doing, getting people connected. But you may not even realize, there's an elected body that regulates or has some role in what's taught in our public schools. Absolutely. 15 districts. I believe 10 Republican, 5 Democrat is still the split. And one of those districts is involved in a pretty big runoff. And so, but that's why we want to make sure you're more engaged with some of our work. And so we got a couple of ways that might inspire you. If you like this message, come and take it. Okay, that's the oftentimes in play. Okay, I'm being told to get a little bit closer. A $50 donation, we'll send this Tumbler. This is really nice. We upgraded from the one we had a couple of years ago that just didn't make it very many rounds at my house, so I knew maybe it's not going to stand up at yours either. But real nice Arctic tumbler here, $100, but you got to send an email that says info@txvalues.org to that email address that your donation is specifically to get the tumbler. And so here's the website too, txvalues.org, if you want to make those donations today. We have a June 30th deadline coming up, and we've got a matching grant in place. All donations up to $30,000 will be matched, and that's running out. So don't wait too long. Get your txvalues.org, June 30th. Her State Board of Education member is, look, it's great to have her leadership on our board. And we've got a lot of great board members in different parts of the state that believe in what we do, and that's why our team of 12, we're putting it on the line every day. Now, I'm going to probably catch my breath a little bit. Maybe you are on 4th of July. We'll see what happens. I'm hearing that the parade's coming through my neighborhood this year. I'm excited about that. Kids will be excited about that, but we certainly are about freedom. We're about what America stands for, And not for a moment are we going to allow the Supreme Court to try to convince us and others that those are the values that American stands for. And it's just part of the reminding that is not even their role. But they've become so active in this issue. But that's why the elections are important. Not only these runoffs, but going into November. Last time I checked, the president gets to decide who's on the Supreme Court. And it's very likely that you're going to see a vacancy in the next election term of the next 4 years, whoever's in the White House. And so something to keep in mind when you're thinking about these issues, but also thinking about who's going to be elected at the state and the local level. Those local races are so important. They really are. And some are in a runoff, and some of those state house, and we got state house seats, we got state senate seats, we got state board of education seats, we've got congressional seats. There are a lot of judge seats. We updated State Board of Education. We hit our deadline, our fundraising deadline. Big pro-life case. One thing, there is one last case coming from the U.S. Supreme Court that we're looking for, and that is a religious liberty case. And really, it's kind of a nuanced legal thing, but it relates to whether churches and religious entities still have that right to make decisions about who works for them based on biblical principles. That could tell us a little bit about how that fits together with that decision a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's called the ministerial exception, and it should be coming out, we think, probably tomorrow.
I think it's typically tomorrow would be the last day.
You can never really tell for sure with the Supreme Court, but
expected.
But we expect that. Basically, in his dissent, and said that, Roe is wrong. And what he said was, the plurality and the Chief Justice ultimately cast aside this jurisdictional barrier. He's talking about a procedural law issue. That Louisiana's law is unconstitutional under our precedents, but those decisions were created the right to abortion out of whole cloth, meaning basically out of air, without a shred of support from the Constitution's text. Our abortion precedents are grievously wrong and should be overruled. And that's Justice Thomas.
And, look, some of us read the dissents, right? Maybe a lot of people read the headlines. Those things a lot of times can end up being the groundwork for a dissent. And that's why those judges write those dissents. In law school, we study a lot on those, right? We'll read, what did the dissent say? And particularly someone like myself, and I'm sure you as well, Covey, when you're going through law school, you recognize those words and the impact they could have. You're looking for any really hope that maybe this is a way forward to have pro-life laws upheld, but even to see Roe v. Wade come down.
Right.
Because there are a lot of scholars that are on the left, so to speak, that think the decision was a real tragedy and really a bad decision as far as the way it was handled structurally and the way it was written. And so let's not overlook those dissents, and it's good to highlight that. Maybe something to have some hope on, but it's great that it matters so much to the judges.
Exactly.
Thomas, Alito, and others writing a dissent and not just accepting decision as.
We know words mean things, and even the dissents that aren't in the majority of the opinion mean things, and we read those so that you don't have to. So we need your support to continue doing that.
Absolutely, we got 12 members of our team. We got an intern. She stepped out for a minute. She'll be back in. Maybe there's an intern that's going to be reading some of the decisions. Maybe they'll come work for us. Maybe they'll do great things and be arguing one of these cases. That's what you support when you support us at txvalues.org. We've had numerous interns come through here, go to grad school, go to law school, go on to do great things in their career. Some have gone and run for political office. And so that's what you're getting when you support our work at txvalues.org. We have a June 30th critical deadline. That's tomorrow. That's midnight. We'll take a donation at 11:59, but be careful. Don't wait that long, okay? But we appreciate those people that have already joined us and supported us. And look, maybe you just want to share some of our information. There's a great graphic up from Ted Cruz. We got a video from some of our work over the past 3 months that's up on social media. And maybe that's the way you're going to do it. And look, we want everyone involved. This year might have been tough for you. I'm not kidding. Chip in $1. We would love to see over 50% of our supporters that get our email chip in one way. Any amount makes a difference, but it also just makes you connected with what we're doing, and it's a way to say that we're touching people and they see value in our work. That little bit of an investment at whatever level is so important and critical, but it also allows us to be in a better position, in a strong position, because I don't know what's going to happen in the second half of the year.
Yep.
Mr. Covey, do you?
Have no idea. Absolutely.
It is I'm not, and we're not in the business of predicting these things, so to speak, either, but I can tell you this, whatever the rest of the year brings, whatever the next 36 hours brings, Texas Values and our team will continue to be committed to the issues of faith, family, and freedom. We're going to do what we do best, and we're going to continue the values. We are not going to step back and just let someone step in and redefine not only sex, not only marriage, but what the values of our state of faith, family, and freedom. And that's why I think we're one of the best investments you can make. And we are a nonprofit 501c3 organization. So go to txvalues.org, sign up for our emails if you don't get them already, and make a tax-deductible donation.